First off, we have to talk about safety. We removed the safety shield, so that is removed, and make sure once you make these adjustments that safety shield goes back on. The other thing that you'll want to do is remove the keys out of the power unit so nobody can start the unit up, and it is very encouraged to disconnect the PTO from the tractor. So now you can safely work on the slip clutch. Here we have theory of operation of a slip clutch. This is what we call the spring and disc type slip clutch, better known as an agricultural style slip clutch. Theory of operation is inside, which you can't see. There are fiber discs. Some clutches have one fiber disc, other clutches have two fiber discs. Well, anyhow, if your machine gets bound up, this protects the gearbox and the drivetrain and any other components from damage. So it is very critical to have a properly adjusted slip clutch. Okay, so now we're going to adjust the slip clutch. These springs here, this is what needs to be adjusted. Typically, it's a 17 millimeter wrench. You'd put that on the back side and you would tighten it on the nut side. So you would tighten this down. That will apply more pressure onto the disc. Okay, now if you do run into an application where you got smoke coming out of this disc and you go, oh my golly, I just burnt up the clutch. These are very heavy duty stout clutches. All you have to do in most situations is just let it cool down. You will be okay. Another nice thing with this clutch is if you do burn it out, these fiber discs inside is a very economical way to replace the fiber disc, and now you're back to factory standard. So anyhow, now we're going to adjust these clutch springs. From 2000 production year moving forward, we're going to have these sticks along with the owner's manual. What you do is you get a setting on your spring. You draw a mark on the stick. Okay, now you know where you're at, because you want each one of these springs adjusted the same tension. Now, you know what your factory setting is because you got the mark on the stick. Now, if you do have to adjust the clutch because of slipping, then what you do is you're going to tighten it up. So that means you want to put your mark below the factory settings 1/8 of an inch. Only adjust the clutch 1/8 of an inch at a time. It does not take much torque setting on the bolts to tighten the clutch up. So now what you can do is you can go around, and it's always nice to have the third hand, because in this case I'm using an impact wrench, but two wrenches is just fine also. But now I put the impact wrench on, I'm loosening it up, now I'm tightening it, I'm checking my tolerance, I gotta go a little tighter. Perfect, right on the line. Okay, what you want to do is go to each and every spring and adjust. It is a good idea to cross adjustment, meaning get this spring, then this spring, then this spring, then this spring, referred to as crisscross adjustment. Okay, so that's the proper setting of it. Now, there is some slip clutch maintenance you have to do periodically. If this machine sits out in the weather and rain for any amount of time, what you want to do is back off on all these springs. Okay, bring that where it's right even with the end of the bolt. And you do that to each and every spring. Then what you do is you get up into the power unit, the tractor, engage the PTO, and it immediately should stop. That rotor should not be turning. Let it run for about 30 seconds. And what that will do is that will clean up these clutch discs inside. Now, if it still operates with these springs all loosened up, that means you got a froze up slip clutch. In that case, you have no driveline protection. You could possibly damage a gearbox, a PTO, drive chain, rotor shaft. It just does mean things to the unit. So you do have to back these nuts off and clean up these discs from time to time. This is where the stick comes in. So now you have a known adjustment that you know is workable for your machine. So you make sure that you mark that on your stick, even if you have to turn it around and mark it as current adjustment. Well, once again, you go through and you make your adjustment just like what we went through, and now your clutch is all maintained and ready to go.
How will I know that the discs on my slip clutch are slipping? Will it smoke? Will the tractor bounce? Will something not work or spin or turn? How will I know that I need to adjust the springs on my slip clutch?
Pretty much everything you just spoke of. It will smoke if it's really operated for any length of time and you don't notice it. Yes, it will start smoking and it'll get extremely hot. And what you need to do is stop the unit and do the required slip clutch maintenance. The other thing you'll see or notice, your rotor quit processing. And a lot of people think it's a gearbox or a chain or chain case adjustment. The first thing to do is check your slip clutch. That is probably the area that your slipping is occurring from.
How will I know when my slip clutch needs to be replaced?
Well, it'd be very uncommon that you had to replace the slip clutch. Very uncommon. Some of the wear parts would be, do check these springs out because sometimes they do break. They look like one piece, but the spring is actually cracked and it's broke. The only other thing would be the internal disc, and you can see them within the slip clutch. And if it appears like you do not have a fiber disc in there, it's probably because it wore out and it dropped out. Well, in that case, you need to remove the slip clutch, disassemble the slip clutch, and it's as simple as putting in a set of disc or one disc, because this clutch does come in either a 1 disc or a 2 disc, so the required disc to put in there. Simple as that.
What's that bolt coming out of the drive shaft? I don't have that on my machine.
You are correct. This is showing, in theory, a general slip clutch. This particular unit also is backed up with a shear pin or a bolt assembly. So The theory of operation in the clutch is all the same, but how it's connected via the gearbox or the drive shaft, that could be very much different on your machine.
Is there anything else I should be doing in the maintenance for my slip clutch?
Well, good question. We kind of went over all the procedures on the slip clutch, but since you got the safety shield off, do check the chain case, gearbox oil. That's removing the plug, and once again, different gearboxes have a different plug, and typically a gearbox will take an 80W90 gear lube. And please go to another Service Tech video on gearbox maintenance.